spiritualization he likes to, and polemics that he likes to indulge in. It was accompanied by such a brightness the Israelites could not bear to look on the face of Moses. But for Paul, it was a brightness that has faded. Then how much greater will the brightness that surrounds the administering of the Spirit, our new brightness from our new covenant, from our new spiritualized, gnosticized, as you were trying to say, approach to things. How much brighter would that be? For if there was any splendor in the administering of the condemnation, the result for Paul is that the covenant of Moses is the covenant of condemning, the covenant of condemnation, where ours is the covenant of life. There must be very much greater splendor in the covenant or administration of justification. In fact, compared with the splendor, by the way, the mystical book of the Jews is called the splendor, and I think it originally got its name from the splendor on Moses' face after he came into the presence of the Lord. So here Paul shows that he understands the Zohar, the book of splendor that the Jews who seek the mystical approach were involved in for 1,000 years after this, until it was published in the Middle Ages around the year 12 or 1300. So I think you see it was the splendor on Moses' face. In fact, compared with the great splendor, the thing used to have such splendor now seems to have none. And what was temporary, that anyway, he's back with his back and forth on words, splendor, splendor, splendor. He goes on like this. Having this hope, we can be quite confident, not like Moses, who put a veil over his face, so the Israelites would not notice the ending of what had to fade. And anyway, their minds have been dulled. Indeed, to this very day, the same veil is still there where the old covenant is being read. A veil never lifted, since Christ alone can remove it. Yes, even today, whenever Moses read, the veil is over their minds. Well, this is a great jump on the veil imagery. But the point is, what he's saying is Moses is a charlatan. Moses didn't put a veil over his face because it was so bright nobody could stand the radiation when he came out among the presence of God. Moses put a veil over his face so that the people wouldn't know that the light of the covenant had gone out. In other words, he was a cheat and a fraud. Now, you say you jumped a step. Yeah, I jumped a step, but that's what he's saying. So you see, you're saying, I believe. I'm spiritually uplifted. Okay, that's fine. You should be. It's a very eloquent presentation. But look, if you're the butt of this, you'd be very offended. You'd be very offended. I don't think any religion has ever spoken about the parent religion in such a manner as that. And nobody pays any attention to it. They just let it slide by. Okay, fine. I wouldn't mind if Paul just had the imagery of splendor, that the Christ spiritualization brings new, renewed splendor. But when he says that Moses is a charlatan and a cheater, and he's put a veil there not to cover his face so that people wouldn't be irradiated, but so that people wouldn't know that what had to go out had gone out, then even if it's allegorization or otherwise, it still is quite offensive. So I'm going to read you that to show you some really anti-law things in Paul's things. I could go page by page by page by page. See, the difference is that you who study these things in religious environments or institutions only are looking for the uplift, and it certainly is there. And so you don't see these other things. And okay, I acknowledge the uplift is there, but you don't see the negative things, not towards you, but towards some other people that have been been forced to be the recipients of this and ended up, I believe, in Holocaust situations, ultimately, because of the pervasiveness of this attitude towards them in the Western world in which they were forced to live. And none of us want that guilt on us and so on. Okay, I wanted to read you that because I read you the Galatians 4 material, and those are two of the most vivid presentations of what I'm talking about. Why do I want to read them? Because as we go along, we're going to deal with someone in the movement who denies the law in the midst of the whole congregation. And, you know, we have a character here who fits that description. If there are some people who are supporting the law and others who are denying it within the movement itself, then we have a possible candidate. So I wouldn't say that this person in the scrolls is Paul. That's going to depend on the dating and whether we think the righteous teacher is a James-like character. But it's a Paul-like character, someone in the movement who splits with the leadership of the movement on the issue of the law. On the issue of the law. Why do I say he splits with the leadership? Because even Acts 21:21, as I read you last time, but I will repeat, because it has to do with this zeal for the law and zealot movement that we're talking about now. So we have this passage. You asked me what number was 21:21. And the next day Paul went up with us to James, and this is a reliable section of Acts most people think is what we call the we document, because it's spoken of in terms of us and we. I don't mind reading it a second time because it fits in with all this. And greeted them. He told them one by one what God had worked among the Gentiles by his ministry, and they glorified God. And they said to him, really they're complaining, and it's James speaking, but you see, brothers, how many myriads of Jews there are who have believed, and all are zealots for the law. And the actual Greek, all zelotai to nomen. All zealots for the law. So this is James speaking. And so clearly, and they hear that you're teaching the Jews among the Gentiles not to circumcise their children. We did this. And the reason for that is that is the symbol of the covenant, and so on. And so therefore, we have some people under vow here. Take them into this place. We know you brought money up because you've been fundraising overseas, and we want you to do this, shave their heads and yours, follow this Nazirite oath, as it's called, line 24. I'm reading it quick so that, because we've already done it once, to show that you yourself also regularly walk keeping the law. It's James demanding that Paul regularly walk keeping the law, and this is in the Christian Bible book of Acts. And you say, why do you believe that? Because it's a part of Acts that's in the we form that looks, everyone has acknowledged it looks more reliable than some other type materials. And I don't see anything to disagree with it. It sounds reasonable. Anyway, when he